But here's your point. For all I didn't like the Pope's politics, he took religion seriously, very seriously. The Prime Minister took it seriously. But the contrast with what the ABC didn't know the Pope was going to die, but the difference between this seriousness and this rubbish that the ABC puts on, I want to play you a grab, they say it's witchcraft, in fact. They put this on Easter Sunday. Have a look at this.
It's glamorous, it's magic, it's witchcraft.
That's what they put on Easter Sunday. Can you explain why?
No, explaining the ABC is beyond me. I agree with you that, like you, I didn't really agree with the Pope's politics. But I think he not only took religion seriously, but he was a dedicated man of God. And I think, in a sense, it's no bad thing that he injected his political, emphasis into his public leadership, because popes are very clear that they don't have any religious authority when they're talking about politics. And if you actually read the Pope's statements about economics and climate change and so on, I often disagreed with them, but there was always an element in them that said, by the way, I have no religious authority in these matters. This is what I believe, but I have no religious authority. In the religious matters, the Pope really was a kind of closet conservative, I mean, the real liberals who wanted there to be women priests by now and a different doctrine on abortion and all the rest of it, they'd be tremendously disappointed by Francis's reign. It would be wrong to cast him as a theological revolutionary. He didn't actually change any substantial doctrine, although sometimes he talked as though he wanted to change. But on the positive side, he certainly lived out his vow of poverty. He reached out to people on the margins, and he was stylistically different. And some of the things that he did, I think the next Pope will want to continue, and some of the things he might want to change.
But since he handpicked 80% of the cardinals will vote, make sure, I think there's some continuity there, which might upset conservatives, despite what you say, because I'll say there's one other thing he got very wrong, and it's again not religion in a strict sense, but his dealings with China, where he has let China, in effect, pick the bishops and etc. of the Catholic Church in China in a secret deal that I think sells out a lot of Chinese Catholics.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Andrew. I was critical of that deal. But on the other hand, it's not actually unprecedented that authoritarian regimes sometimes have some influence over the choice of bishops. The greatest pope in the last 1,000 years, Pope John Paul II, was the Church's 5th or 6th or 7th choice to be archbishop. And the Polish communists refused to accept all the earlier choices, and they thought, oh, well, this guy writes plays and poetries and so on, he won't give us any trouble. And look what happened. But just one word too on the fact that the Pope chose 80% of the cardinals who will choose the next Pope. All of the cardinals who chose Francis were chosen by Benedict and John Paul II. Cardinals are like democratic electorates everywhere. They don't do what you tell them. The other thing is, Francis appointed exclusively liberals from places like North America and Europe, but he also appointed the majority of people from the fringes of the church, from Mongolia, where there are fewer Catholics than you'd get at Sunday Mass at St Mary's Cathedral in Sydney, from East Timor, from Tonga, from all kinds of places, the Ukrainian bishop in Australia. Now, these guys generally are not well known in church controversies. They're not exactly known as liberals or conservatives, but the experience overwhelmingly is that bishops and leaders in the global south are much more theologically orthodox and conservative than bishops and leaders in Paris or New York or San Francisco. And, we could get an African pope, which I think would be a wonderful thing. It'd be a great thing if the Church, the Universal Holy Catholic Roman Church, chose a leader who bore no resemblance to the leaders they've had for the last 1,000 years. And if they choose an African cardinal, they're likely to get, theologically, a very conservative and spiritual person. Now, they might choose anybody. I'm not predicting they'll choose an African, but I think this is a completely unpredictable conclave. We could get any result out of this. I don't think we're going to get a reincarnation of Francis.
That is a very, very good point. And of course, the church is booming in Africa and in South America, even if it seems to be dying in Europe. So, boy, this is... I should have warned people, go and see Conclave. I don't say it's a great movie. The left is good, the conservatives are bad, but they do point... Oh, I shouldn't give that away. It might confirm, let me just say this, what Greg has just said. Greg, always great to talk to you. Greg Sheridan, thank you so much for your time.